Hello everybody, what is going on? It is AnonymousZao Gaming, and today we have some good news from Hi-Rez Studio, the makers of Smite, Paladins, the Tribes game. We've got patch 34 live right now in the Paladins open beta. So we're going to go ahead and take a little bit of time to discuss exactly what was covered in the update, or most of what was covered. There's a lot of fine details that I don't want to go into, or else this video would be about an hour long. So we're going to try to cover the main points, and I'm going to leave a link in the description so that you can go and check the more in-depth log of all the actual changes that were implemented in this new patch. But to start things off, Ying is back. That's right, everybody's favorite kawaii support player is back, and we'll take a look at her here in just a few moments. I first wanted to cover essentially what is going on the back end of the updates before I actually take a look into some of the features actually in the game that have changed. So as far as some of the bigger things that they've added in this patch, there is a new game mode. It's essentially like the standard payload game that has already been in the beta, but with a little bit of a twist. So with this new payload game mode, it's essentially a attack defend turn taking type of game. So the two teams spawn, one team will be defending, the other team will be attacking, so it's no longer a neutral point that needs to be captured and then the payload is spawned. It's just one side spawns as the attackers pushing the payload, the other side spawns defending their end point, I guess we'll call it. So the way that this works is each side takes one turn doing either attacking or defending, and then there's a round 2. So, you know, if, say, one team attacks and they push it, then it flip-flops and the attacking now become the defending now become the attacking. Wonderful. If it comes out that both teams end up pushing the payload to the end, then it's going to calculate the winner of the round based upon who did it the fastest. Then it'll go to round 2. Round 2 is where it gets a little bit different. The payload cart will spawn at a location on the map that will be essentially right in the middle, and then a marker will be placed for each side as to how far they need to push the payload, and by the end of the round, whoever has the payload closest to the other team's endpoint, essentially, is the winner. So it's kind of like a reverse version of tug of war. So instead of pulling it towards you, you're actually trying to push it away from you. So that's the best way, I guess, that I could explain this new game mode. And in the patch, it is playable on 3 different maps. It'll be playable on Outpost, Hidden Temple, and Frostbite Caverns. Now, some of the more general updates that we'll be taking a look at here in a few seconds. They have added cosmetic voice packs now, and emotes are in the works. They already have an icon set up for it, but nothing has been implemented just yet. But they did update the in-match store screen as well as the, I guess, character store screen when you're in the main menu. So we'll be taking a look at that here in a few moments as well. But they did improve the in-match loadout screen, so like when you're picking your deck that you want to play the champion with and when you're picking your items. And we'll jump into a match to show that as well. And then I also wanted to I guess display some of my excitement, because I feel like this was a huge update that was absolutely necessary. The payload collision side has now been more closely matched to the actual visual of the payload. So there's no more of that you're trying to shoot an enemy that's on the other side of the payload, but somehow your shots are getting blocked by an invisible wall, even though on the model there's nothing there. So they've more closely sized the hitbox of that prop to reflect a little more of what you actually see. I think that's huge. I'm so glad they implemented that, because that was, honestly, it was a pain in the ass, and I'm really glad that that's fixed now. One big change that a lot of people might not notice or kind of overlook is how overtime works now. So the time it takes for overtime to expire now diminishes the longer overtime lasts. So it used to be a default of 6 seconds, and it never changed until the match ended. Now it will actually diminish, so it'll go from 6 seconds And then after a certain amount of time, it'll go to 5 seconds. After a certain amount of time, it'll go to 4 seconds. So it will continue to diminish all the way down to a minimum of 1 second, which means if you have nobody on the payload and it's being contested, if it's been going on for so long, then your maximum overtime time limit is going to be 1 second. If there's not somebody on the payload contesting it, after 1 second, the game is over. Which I felt was necessary because I noticed in a lot of games that I would play, you'd get to the very, very, very end, and then it would just kind of stop, and you would have the enemy team just kind of dancing around their payload or around the payload, trying to keep it from getting that last like foot into their base. And then the other team, they would essentially just kind of like run a person in single file, because they would never all die at the same time. It'd be like one person would die, he'd spawn, start running back, someone else would die, he'd spawn, he'd start, and it was just basically like an assembly line. It was just one person after another person after, just running in and essentially suiciding so that the game wouldn't end. So I think it is a much needed update, although I can already see that some people are probably going to be a little upset about that. Players can now also choose their preferred region, which will apply for all game modes, including the casual queue. So now the matchmaking will be region locked, which was a nice thing, because I was noticing that I was getting queued up with people in more like South America, so my ping would instantly kind of jump up a little bit, which was a bit of a pain in the ass. So I think that it is good that that has been finally implemented. It is all region locked, so you shouldn't have games where you go from having 50-60 ping to games where you have like 120-130 ping. So it'll be a little more consistent. Practice queue now includes all the siege maps, not just the 2 I think that they had in there when you were doing like not co-op, but like 5 players versus 5 AI to practice, which is nice because when you're a new player, since you have to rank to level 5 before you can even play casual, it gets a little redundant if you're having to play the same 2 maps over and over and over and over again. So I think that is really, really good to implement to keep new players a little more interested, rather than have them essentially play on like one map for their first 10-15 matches. And then they've made some other improvements as well, improvements with some of the visual effects, improvements with issues that were going on with kill cam. So there are quite a few other things, but I feel like those are the big points that I really, really wanted to discuss as far as like general, I guess, updates that were made. They have added new skins and cosmetics for pretty much every champion, or not every champion. I kind of lied on that one. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, so 5, 6 of the champions now have additional skins. And then they have implemented the changes to some of the maps. They've improved some of the spawn rooms, as well as giving them each individual name, so it's a little more clear as to which map you're actually going to. And then they did a cluster of updates and balances for most of the champions, probably about half of them, maybe a little bit more than half of them. But now we're going to go ahead and kind of take a look actually visually at some of the changes that have been implemented with this patch. So nothing's really changed as far as like the play screen, but here's your region. I did want to point this out. So when you're region locking, when you queue up, you just click that over there and it'll pop up so you can select which region you want to play in. So just double check that before you start playing again after updating, just to make sure that it's in the correct region that you actually want to play in. The store face still looks essentially the same. Nothing has really changed here, but where the big changes have come into play is on the champion screen. So we'll go ahead and we'll take actually a look at Evie, because she just got a really cool new skin. So this has not changed the overview screen. What has changed is the customized screen. You'll notice now it's broken down a little more clean, I should say, as far as like seeing sets, just body, heads, weapons. You can see they've implemented emotes, but it is not effective yet, so that is still soon to come, probably in the next, hopefully, 2 patches, hopefully. And down here you'll see the different voice packs. Obviously some of them are going to be purchasable with the in-game gold, some of them you have to use shards. So let's take a look. This is actually Eevee's, I guess, exclusive new skin set, the Troublemakers. It looks really good. It basically, she's kind of like a, I guess like a high school, like punk anarchist type of girl. And she has this cool, like rock guitar wand instead of her standard little wand. I'm not even really sure how to explain that thing. So now it looks like a punk electric guitar. So that's really sick. Here's the changes that they made to the loadout as far as picking your deck. And then they have cleaned up the look of the skills as well, which I feel was quite necessary. And you can even play the sound effect for the ultimate. I love that. But that also is really nice because it can help new players learn what to listen for, so they know if they hear this sound, well, then everybody knows that Eevee is ulting. So I think that's actually a really smart feature to implement, especially for new players that are just getting into the game. Kind of gives them a heads up of what to listen for, since obviously amidst a fight, it can be very difficult to see any kind of animations in a game like this. So hearing things is going to be key. So that really helps out a lot. I really do like that feature. But they've essentially done this for every single champion. So they all have this new style, which I think is absolutely wonderful. I feel it was very necessary. They haven't really changed anything as far as like what your profile looks like, but they have added a overall leaderboards as well. And you can see my my wonderful match history here. Actually, not too bad. Only 3 losses right now. But I'm going to cut it here, and I'm going to get into a game to show off the new in-game features as far as like the cards and item sets. So expect a nice little jump cut.
If you need help, don't hesitate to ask.
So once again, here is more of the in-game loadout. So here's the new loadout screen when you're picking the deck that you want to play with. Gives you this nice little card swipe animation when it's loading everything out. And then when you're purchasing items, this is the new item screen. It looks very clean, and it'll actually give you the tier breakdowns for the cards. I think this is absolutely beautiful. It looks so much better than the old one, and now that it actually gives you the overall breakdown for each and every single one,
I like where this is going.
I feel it is much more effective, and it is way easier to see everything now than it was before. So I have to say, a lot of these visual updates are absolutely amazing. I'm really glad that they implemented all this. And we're going to go back to the main menu and kind of wrap things up here and give my final thoughts on everything. Alright, so as previously mentioned, we're going to go ahead and take a look at Ying. She is the newest champion added. I know technically she's not exactly new, although she is the newest to the roster. So she was added into the game and then disabled shortly after, and she's been MIA since, undergoing some fixes apparently, and they may have made some minor tweaks, but now she is back as of this update. So let's go ahead and take a look at Ying. I know some people have probably already played her and are familiar with her, but this is just in case for any reason you forgot exactly what she does, who she is, or if this is your first time actually seeing her. We're going to go ahead and take a look at exactly what Ying can do. So she is played in the support role. She does have, as of right now, I believe it's 3 body skins. So she has her default, which is this kind of like teal, seafoam, greenish blue color. And then she has a color variation, which is more or less just like a darker purple. Other than that, it doesn't really change anything about her. But then she has her slightly more exclusive skin, which actually looks really, really good. It is this black and red one. As you can see, as far as the general, I guess, look of the outfit, it's still very similar. It still kind of has that little like collar with the jewel in the middle. She still has the same style of like the head and face dress, same earrings, but the main differences come in as far as like the body. So you can see here she kind of has like these I guess like sash kind of articles wrapped around, and then she kind of has this I guess like a wrap top with some pretty serious underboob going on there. And then, as well, I believe the gloves are actually... Yeah. And apparently, my Siri thinks I'm talking to her, but I'm not. Go to sleep, Siri. So anyway, but as you can see here, she's got more of the like full sleeves as opposed to just the open sleeve like wrap top. Obviously the pattern is different. This is a black and dark orange, almost red looking color. But this definitely looks really, really cool. It is right now only 250 shards. I believe that roughly equates to, what is that, about $6, I believe, something in that nature. Here, you know what? Let's just check. Let's go ahead and check. So her skin was 250, so yeah, it'd be about roughly $6.50, something like that. But as far as what she can do, here are her skills. So she has the illusionary mirror, which is her primary left button click. It shoots a short burst. Essentially, it's 5 ticks of damage. And if you hit all 5 ticks of damage on an opponent, it will deal a bonus 100 damage. So it's kind of like the Aatrox when you do the right click and he does the 3-shot burst. If you hit all 3 shots, he deals additional bonus damage for hitting all 3. Her left click works the exact same way, essentially. Her right click is Shatter, which is actually really strong right now, just a FYI. Essentially all she does is she just causes her any active illusions up to 2. Active illusions will run to the nearest enemy and then blow up after a brief period of time. Her F key is her delusional link, which allows her to swap positions with the furthest illusion. If no illusions are currently active, I believe it will just teleport her to, it'll take her to the location of the last active illusion, in case like your illusions are killed, something of that nature, in the middle of the fight. And then it does remove debuffs upon use. So if you are affected by like Cauterize or something of that, have reduced healing, you can, when you dimensional link, go back to one of your clones and it will remove that debuff so you can heal back to normal, etc. Then she has illusions, which is her Q. That's essentially what allows her to do her healing, or her primary heal. That's what casts her clones. They do not attack for you, they strictly heal, and that is it. They just look like her. But that's really it. You'll see them make like an attack animation, but it is just them shooting like a green beam at allies, which is healing them. But it does heal nearby allies for 400 health every second. And then her ultimate is Illusory Rift. And essentially what it does is it creates like a prism over each ally, and then it heals them for 200 damage every half second for 1 second. So essentially what it does is for 1 second you'll see this little like icon by each player, and it will heal them for a total of 400 damage. So it's not, I mean, I don't think, or it'll do it every 1 second. I believe it lasts 4 seconds if I'm not mistaken. So it's not the greatest one. Obviously the tree has probably the best heal, but it's still a good ultimate. It can definitely turn a fight around. But those are her skills, kind of a breakdown of what they are, and then of course you have the loadouts. I can tell you now she is going to be very, 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 very dependent on cooldown. If you look at her basic, almost every single card is based on cooldown except for this one, which increases the illusion health by 400, and this tangible 2, which increases her base health. But everything else is strictly for cooldowns. So Chrono is probably going to be a very good starting item card when you begin to play her. And I have a feeling Chrono is probably going to be the most commonly picked first card for her, simply because it allows her to throw her clones constantly for healing. It also allows her to right-click a lot to make them deal a ton of damage in the middle of fights, and then the second she blows them up, she can just throw more right back out to keep healing. But that's a brief little breakdown of Ying, the wonderful, wonderful new support that has been added into Paladins. So just to kind of wrap up my final thoughts and opinions, enjoy this random gameplay of me playing Ying for the first time. I do awful, just a heads up. But overall, I think this was actually a really good patch. They've implemented a lot of new things for the beta, a lot of things for new people to experience, as well as people that have been playing the beta for quite a while. It's kind of a nice change of pace, keeps the community alive. That's one of the problems that I have with early betas and early access games, is they usually allow you to start playing the game so early into the development stage that by the time the game is actually finished and done, the player base has already died off because it's become so stagnant and stale as far as what they're able to continue to do with the game. Usually stuff just doesn't come out fast enough, and that's a lot of the big problems that I'm noticing with early access games, early beta games. The game will start off strong, and then they kind of blow their load way too soon, and they allow people to start playing such an early stage of the game before they really have enough to do in it. And then by the time they start adding new things to make the game fun and interesting, they've already lost way too much of the player base, and then the game dies. So I think it's really important that Hi-Rez continue to add things very frequently, or as frequently as possible, to this game, or there is a good chance that they will end up losing the community if they don't add stuff to do fast enough. But I think this was a good patch. It added a lot of stuff. And if you have not given this game a try, I do highly recommend it. All of that debate about Overwatch this, Paladins that, Team Fortress this, like, just play it, form your own opinion. They are very different playing games. Sure, they look similar, but playstyle wise, they do play differently. So I would have to say, give it a try, form your own opinion. The game is free. So, honestly, there's no risk in just trying it. If you don't like it, hey, you didn't pay anything. The most you did was maybe waste an hour of your time, and that's about it. But I played Overwatch in the beta, I'm playing this in the beta. Honestly, I can say it does feel different as far as the play style. They do have a lot of their own unique champions, so just give it a try. Like I said, it's free, so... But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, consider hitting that like button. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions or future suggestions. If you really want to show your support, consider hitting that subscribe button. Really helps out a lot. And I will definitely look into making more of these videos in the future. So I hope you guys stick around.
Brother, help me!